Have you ever heard a story so chilling, so twisted, that it stays with you long after you've heard it? This is one of those stories. It's a tale that proves truth can be far more shocking than any horror movie. It all starts on a seemingly normal morning, November 9th, 2005, in the quiet town of Robinson, Texas, just before sunrise at 6:11 a.m. A frantic 911 call shatters the peace. The caller is a woman named Darlene Gentry, and she's reporting something absolutely horrific has happened inside her home. When police arrive, they find her husband, Keith Gentry, gravely wounded in their bed. He's been shot. Despite being rushed to the hospital, Keith succumbs to his injuries 2 days later, leaving behind a devastated family and a town demanding answers. This was just the beginning of a tragic investigation that would uncover a web of secrets and lies. To understand this tragedy, we need to know the people at its center. Darlene Gentry was born in 1974. Friends and family called her a Texas beauty queen. She was charming, ambitious, and outgoing. After studying dental assisting, she pursued a career in nursing. She came from a loving, supportive family and was known for her magnetic personality. Her husband, Keith Gentry, was her exact opposite in many ways. Also born in 1974, Keith was a quiet, kind, and dependable man. He was a true family man, dedicated and hardworking. He studied drafting and welding and worked as an engineering assistant for a utility company. Those who knew him described him as the rock of his family, loyal and utterly reliable. Their love story began in college. It was a classic case of opposites attract, and they fell deeply in love. They did split up for a short time in 1997, but their bond was too strong, and they soon reunited. In 1999, they got married and settled down in their new home in Robinson, Texas, ready to build their perfect life. Keith worked a steady job, providing for the family, while Darlene focused on her nursing career. Soon, their family grew. They had 3 beautiful sons: Chase, born in 2001, Cody in 2004, and the youngest, Cade, born just months before the tragedy in 2005. On the surface, they were the picture-perfect American family, but behind closed doors, cracks were beginning to show. Keith, wanting to spend more time with his growing family, quit a higher-paying job that required frequent travel. It was a noble sacrifice, but it put a significant strain on their finances. Darlene, however, didn't adjust her spending habits. Arguments about money became more and more frequent. An emotional distance started to grow between them. Despite the tension, the word divorce was never mentioned. Keith remained completely devoted to his wife and kids, trying his best to make everything work. He was a man who would do anything for his family. Then came that terrible morning when Darlene called 911, she sounded distraught. She told the operator she'd found Keith shot in their bed. She claimed the back door was wide open and that some of their guns were missing from the gun cabinet, suggesting a robbery gone wrong. She explained that she had been sleeping in another room with the kids because their youngest, baby Cade, had been restless all night. But as investigators began to piece things together, Darlene's story started to unravel. The forensic evidence told a very different story. The estimated time of death for Keith was much earlier than when Darlene claimed to have found him. There were no signs of a forced entry into the home, and the guns that were supposedly stolen, police found them stacked neatly just outside the house, not at all what you'd expect from a panicked burglar. Investigators also learned that only 2 people had access to the gun cabinet where the murder weapon was kept: Keith and Darlene. Her behavior also raised red flags. Her 911 call, when analyzed later, seemed oddly calm for someone who had just discovered her husband shot, and she never attempted to perform CPR. When detectives brought her in for questioning, she didn't offer answers. Instead, she invoked her Fifth Amendment right and asked for a lawyer. The turning point came when investigators executed a search warrant on the Gentry home. In the trash, they found a pair of latex gloves. Inside those gloves, they made a shocking discovery: a .22 caliber shell casing, gunshot residue, and the DNA of 2 people, Keith and Darlene. The motive, it seemed, was becoming clear. Detectives uncovered a life insurance policy on Keith worth between $500,000 and $750,000. With a financial motive and mounting physical evidence, police had what they needed. On November 28, 2005, just weeks after her husband's death, Darlene Gentry was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. But here's a twist you wouldn't expect. Keith's own parents, still grieving the loss of their son, refused to believe Darlene was guilty. They loved her like a daughter and were convinced of her innocence. They even posted her bail, allowing her to go free while she awaited trial. Darlene moved in with her parents, and for a while it seemed like she might get away with it. But her own actions would soon become her downfall. Sometime after her release, Darlene contacted a local landowner named Robert Pavevala, asking about buying a piece of land from him that happened to have a pond on it. A few weeks later, she made a very strange request. She asked Pavevala if he could fill in the pond. This request was so bizarre that it made him suspicious, and he immediately contacted the police. What did Darlene want to hide in that pond? Investigators decided to find out. They drained and searched the murky water, and there, at the bottom, they found it: a .22 caliber revolver, the murder weapon. But they didn't just want to find the gun. They wanted to prove, beyond any doubt, that Darlene put it there. So they set up a brilliant sting operation. They told Pavevala to call Darlene and tell her that he was going to drain the pond. Then they set up hidden cameras and waited. The bait worked perfectly. Under the watchful eye of law enforcement, Darlene Gentry was filmed driving to the property, walking into the now empty pond, and using a stick to frantically search the exact spot where the gun had been hidden. It was the moment she convicted herself. She had walked right into their trap. In February 2007, Darlene Gentry's trial began. The prosecution laid out all the evidence, the inconsistencies in her story, the latex glove with the gunshot residue, the financial motive. But the star of the show was the surveillance video. The jury watched, mesmerized, as Darlene searched the pond for the murder weapon she thought was still hidden. It was undeniable proof of her guilt. Her defense team was so overwhelmed by the evidence that they did uncall a single witness to the stand. On February 8, 2007, the verdict came in: guilty of first-degree murder. Darlene Gentry was sentenced to 60 years in prison. The motive, prosecutors argued, was a toxic mix of greed and a desire for freedom. She wanted out of her marriage and wanted Keith's life insurance money to solve her financial problems. In the aftermath of the trial, Keith's heartbroken parents were granted permanent custody of their 3 grandsons in 2010. Darlene was legally barred from ever contacting her children again. Her appeal for a new trial was denied in 2017. Today, she is serving her sentence at the Lane Murray Unit in Gatesville, Texas. She won't be eligible for parole until 2037. If she's denied, she will remain in prison until her sentence ends in 2067. Keith Gentry is remembered as a loving, devoted father and husband who made the ultimate sacrifice for his family, only to have his life stolen by the person he trusted most. His legacy lives on through his 3 sons, who were thankfully raised by the loving grandparents who never stopped fighting for justice for their son. Thank you so much for watching. This case is a powerful reminder that sometimes the most dangerous threats are the ones closest to home. If you found this story as compelling as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating cases. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next video.